He has 5,000 words on a preview of Game 2 for the Knicks-Hawks coming your way very soon. Again, it'll be up any time now. Rick, thanks for taking time away from writing that big preview and stopping by with us.
You weren't supposed to spill the beans. We were going to make that a surprise because you know why? Because nobody would have seen it coming. That's why.
That's true.
All right, so, hey, let's start with what we just saw here. The Mavericks beat the Clippers 127-121, and this is a beginning that not a lot of people saw coming because of the way the Clippers played well at the end of the year. But then you had the whole, we're tanking, we might not want to play the Lakers at the beginning of the playoffs, and they haven't seemed to get things right. What are you seeing with the Clippers? It's suddenly they went from, hey, they're a trendy pick to win it all, to now, hey, they could be going home in a sweep.
Well, I don't buy the whole mindset of that they sat their guys in the last two games and strategized where they were going to be in the bracket. If that's what really led to it, if it wasn't just, hey, we're not going to risk getting Paul George and Kawhi Leonard hurt in the last two games. We'll see how it goes. Certainly, if you look at the games that they won over the course of the season, they've sat those guys before and won games against that kind of competition. So I'm not going to put it there, but I just the unearned arrogance of the Clippers never ceases to amaze me. You are up against the Dallas Mavericks. You are up against Luka Doncic. And you think you can intimidate Luka Doncic by, I don't know, putting Pat Bev on him or driving and dunking and giving a primal scream, like that's going to do something to the Dallas Mavericks? You lost game one on your home court. And I would have thought that you come out, and of course you did not shoot the three well. You didn't shoot it anywhere close to what you had over the course of the season. So you figured that was going to improve. But then you come out in game two, where I would have thought you need to make a statement defensively in terms of what you're going to do. And you have the Mavericks shoot 58% overall and 53% from three and allow them to take 34 of them. So it wasn't a small sample size. And they basically did it just because the Clippers were willing to give you one good effort on defense, but they were not willing to give you 2 and 3. And in playoff basketball, that's what you have to do. So the lack of urgency and intensity at the defensive end, I commiserate with anybody who is a Clippers fan. It is astonishing to me that they think they are obviously think more highly of themselves than they're willing to demonstrate. I don't. It's even hard for me to put into words because when I look at what they have and what they're capable of, I'm a sucker like everybody else. I'm like, that's a good. They have everything they need. And then Kawhi Leonard changed my opinion because of the way he played defense this year. I thought he took it back up a notch. And I'm watching this game tonight, and there's no leadership at that end. And if anybody's going to lead you, it should be a defensive player, a previous defensive player of the year. So I don't want to take anything away from the Mavericks, but the Clippers are just the most befuddling team, the most befuddling good team that I can remember watching in my career.
All right, so let me just say this before we get to the Lakers. If the Clippers lose this series and down 0-2, it doesn't look good for them. Is Kawhi Leonard on a new team next year?
You know what? I don't really care. I mean,
I just put the poll question up, Rick.
Because he's the, I would say no, but even if he is, like, okay, so where's he going to go? He's going to have to go someplace where you have leadership because that he has demonstrated last year, this year, and now, if you in retrospect, you look at the game, the championship won in Toronto, or you look at the championship won in San Antonio, and you realize that you had the Tim Duncans and the Manu Ginobilis, and you had the Kyle Lowrys and the Fred VanVleets, and so it makes you realize, sure, Kawhi can be part of a championship team, but he's not going to be the leader of a championship team. I don't see how anybody could make that case based on what we've seen the last 2 years, because it's been there for the making for him, and he simply has, to this point, has not stepped up.
All right, I'll bridge it this way, Rick, because it'll tie the two teams together, I guess. Should Kristaps Porzingis have been allowed to play based on breaking protocol, allegedly at a strip club and getting fined?
Not if LeBron is simply getting fined. I mean, you know, I look, the NBA is in a tough situation because they created these rules in order to compel players to get vaccinated, and in order to make certain that that guys didn't go out there and potentially create problems as far as contaminating an entire team. And they made those. I mean, keep in mind where we were at the beginning of the season. We weren't anywhere close to where we are now. So, you know, they've been a little slow in adjusting all the rules because why? Because they've worked. Like, why change it? It's kept us, you know, we haven't had any major issues. But then they run into a situation like this where, you know, the world is coming alive again and events are happening and guys are going out, and now you have to impose the rules. So as double standardish as it would appear, I understand where the NBA is, but the bottom line is, look, you took the stance you did with LeBron James. You can't possibly do anything different with Kristaps Porzingis.
Ric Bucher, our guest, Fox Sports Radio, the Jason Smith Show with Mike Harmon. All right, you talk about you have to enforce things. We watched the beginning of the Laker game tonight, and Anthony Davis enforced his foot into the groin of Jay Crowder. He gets a flagrant one, but honestly, if you look at that play, you can say that's really what a flagrant two is. It's intent. It's everything you need. He doesn't get thrown out, gets a flagrant one, gets to play, has a great game for the Lakers. Were the refs right in allowing Anthony Davis to keep playing in the game?
No, the real question is going to be, we've seen this happen with a LeBron-involved team. Let's go back to Draymond Green in Game 5 when he takes a swing at LeBron's private parts as LeBron steps over him. And he was not tossed out of that game, but he was suspended in the subsequent game because they felt that that particular situation was not adjudicated severely enough. And so that is where precedent has been set, and that's where things get real interesting. If Anthony Davis is not suspended for the next game, and I'm not like campaigning for that, but I think it would raise serious questions about, okay, so why did you do it the way you did it with Draymond? And in this case, in looking at it, looks like you got it wrong. I mean, I don't know how you defend that in saying it's only a flagrant one when just the previous game Cameron Payne got tossed for shoving Alex Caruso,
right?
And I mean, I just don't. And after a series of events where if I'm Cam Payne, I'm probably kind of ticked off that I feel like I got cut off and there was a foul that wasn't called. I shove him, he shoves me back. I have the ball, he knocks the ball out of my hands, and I shove him again. Like, that series of events gets me 2 techs and out of the game, and yet Anthony Davis, sort of an uninstigated situation, does what he does, but you get to stick around. I don't see the fairness in all. When I add up all the precedents, I don't see how that happens, but they have an opportunity to come back and get it right.
Yeah, I've already been called beyond stupid for contending that he should have been tossed. By luminaries across our sporting universe, so that's fine. I'll wear that as it goes.
I've got good company then. I'm good with that.
I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I really don't care for the other side. It's like, how do you excuse that? I don't understand that. He's not auditioning for the Rockettes. On the other side, for Phoenix, though, I mean, big questions of Chris Paul. Another year, another injury, limited to 23 minutes. A lot more Cameron Payne, it looks like, the rest of this series, Rick.
Yeah, and look, this was always my feeling. This is why I did not think that it's why Chris Paul was on my MVP ballot, because I knew what he meant to them. You can't capture in numbers other than their win-loss record what he means to them in sort of a balancing presence, a toughness presence, a leadership presence. And yet I also know that he's 36 years old and he breaks down, and he generally breaks down when the game goes up to another level of intensity in the playoffs. So this is why I just couldn't imagine that the Suns were going to have a long run in the playoffs. And then even after winning game one, seeing Chris Paul get hurt, my thing was, if he can't come back and play, if he's not healthy, the Suns have no chance of winning the series. And, I think we saw that tonight it's a 1-point game, and you've got 2-3 minutes left, and now you've got Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton having to make plays and having to make decisions versus LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And it just wasn't a fair fight. Suddenly it's a 10-point difference in a matter of minutes because they're taking bad shots, they're committing bad fouls, and, LeBron and Anthony Davis are just coolly, calmly measuring, getting to their spots, knocking down their shots, game over. So it's why I admired what the Phoenix Suns did, and yet I also knew that this was a bit of a house of cards, that if that one Chris Paul card fell, that this house was going to come down pretty quickly.
So let's play this out. Chris Paul tries to play the rest of the series. He's not the same guy. Anthony Davis gets suspended for Game 3. How does the series play out?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if AD doesn't play in Game 3, then it certainly makes things interesting because now LeBron presumably would have to play a bigger role. He's also 36 years old. He's got to push himself a little bit more than he would want to. It gets intriguing. Chris Paul playing is vital, but Chris Paul also has to be able to do something. He has to be able to. Maybe he can't. His shoulder or his arm, whatever, is too compromised for him to knock down threes. At the very least, he has to be able to go right and finish on those step-back jumpers mid-range, just enough to keep the Lakers honest. If he can't do that, it's just not enough. It helps to have his presence on the floor, but he has to be a factor. He has to be able to do a couple things because that's what he's been able to do all year long. He may have only averaged 16 points, but I guarantee you, 12 of those 16 in every game happened in pivotal situations where they needed a bucket, whether it was at the end of the game or to stymie a run by the opposition. Like Chris Paul may not score 30, but what he does score, every single point is important, and they need that to have any chance in this. So I don't know about you guys. I'm a little surprised by the way it was described as a contusion, that he was still so compromised in this game 48 hours later. I just did not expect this to be a factor. And now I don't know. I don't know whether we're going to see him good again or any semblance of good again in the rest of the series, because I would not have expected him to be limited in Game 2.
Fox Sports Radio, Jason Smith Show, Mike Harmon, Ric Bucher with us right now, at Ric Bucher, where you find him on Twitter, FS1 analyst. You hear him here every week with us, the On the Ball podcast, and, of course, Rebound, the book he did with Brian Grant. You can pick that up, barnesandnoble.com, Amazon, wherever you get your books. Fine purveyors of literacy.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful thing. Tomorrow we got 3 games. Jason's gripping over his Knicks, especially now that de Blasio is calling for them to do something to Trae Young. The upstart Grizzlies and John Morant. And then you've got angry Russell Westbrook against the Sixers. Where do we find some intrigue tomorrow, Rick?
Well, I do think that the Knicks-Hawks series, I think it's going to be a fun one. I think it's going to continue to be a fun one. Such a big part of that is how it's going to be officiated. If by and large, we've seen the same trend where the playoff action has allowed teams have been allowed to play more physically than the regular season. That benefits the Knicks in a big way. So it's just a matter of are they going to get that? Are they going to be able to play physically? And if they are, then I give them a great chance of evening this series. And I just feel it feels to me like it's going to be a long series. Atlanta is talented. They have more offensive power, but they're like the Phoenix Suns. They're relatively young, and they have to figure some things out. And I think Derrick Rose is going to at least win you one or two games with his savvy and experience, having played so much playoff basketball.
He's on Twitter at Ric Bucher. That is at Ric Bucher. And I gave a guarantee, Rick, and I'm guaranteeing the Knicks win game 2. I guarantee a W. Julius Randle is not going to stink again, and it's going to be a big game 2. The Knicks got used to the playoffs. They're ready to go, and it's going to be a much different game tomorrow night. If the Knicks don't win by 10, I'll be surprised.
Wow. Just make sure that Chuck Barkley is not doubling down on your prediction, and then you might have a chance.
Well, the thing is, I asked Shaq about it, and I said, I don't think Julius Randle's going to stink again. And he said, forget about that. Zach Randolph is going to be great for the Knicks tomorrow night. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That is complete bull, because what Shaq said to you was, so you have no idea what he said. You just projected what you wanted him to say. Let's be real, okay? He said to you, I was going to get that's what he said.
That's the one and only Ric Bucher. We're going to try to translate that and bring that back for. I think somehow that translates to Knicks, yo. I think so. I think it does.
Slow it way down. It way down. Yeah. It's the White Album. It's the White Album backwards. That's what it is.
Julius is God. Julius is God. That's what it's going to sound like when you play it backwards. Take it easy, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.